So now we've reached the second line, usi duji line ta pahunch gaya. And from now on, the next couple of lines are arranged according to how you pronounce them. So this line is kaka, kaka, gaga, gaga, nganga. So you're using the back of your tongue against the top of your mouth, against the roof of your mouth. So, kaka. It's like a K sound, but a hard K sound, which is in between a K and a G. G. Kaka. It's a similar concept to the letter sasa or the letter haha, I guess. So you start with that line on top, and 2/3 or 3/4 of the way across that line, start going down, but you make it curvy, you loop around, and then you loop around back, down. So it looks a bit like the infinity sign, I guess. Inch kaka. Ik do very I'll write it a couple more times. Line across, down and loop across. Let it hang over the edge. Very hard. Oh, that one's a bit messier. Kaka. Kaka. मैं फिर तो 2-4 बार इथे लिख दिया, and then we'll move on to some words beginning with kaka. And keep practicing while you're learning line number 2. कोशिश करना पहली line ना भूल जाना. Make sure you're not forgetting the letters we've learnt already. So kaka. Couple of words beginning with kaka are kamra. Kamra means room. Kumbal. Kumbal means a blanket. And again, kamra as room, that means like the physical room in a house, not that there's a lot of space, a lot of room in this car, for example. Kamra is a room in a building. Kumbal is a blanket, and kursi is a chair. Kursi. And again, it's a physical chair, not like the chairperson. Agla kudha kaka. Kaka is perhaps a bit more like you'd actually pronounce the letter K, but when you're thinking about what the letter kaka sounds like in Punjabi, because as we said before, kaka is like a hard K sound, k. Kaka is more softer, you're allowing a lot more breath to escape. Kaka. So you add, it's like a KH almost. There's a kakeru ginjlik there. Again, this letter is open at the top. Oop, I'm writing in red this time. Injlik there. Let me shift back to black. So go around, down, and then up, and then down to make like a tail, and then continue that horizontal line at the top from which the letter is hanging, and then another line in the middle, horizontal. Now let's write it a couple more times. Again, this letter looks very similar to a couple of other letters that we'll learn. And at the end we can see if we want to learn letters by shape, then how can we group them? And you'll find more about that at the end. So kaka, I'll write it a couple of times here. And as I'm doing this, try to write it yourself as well. Kaka. That one's a bit messier. Kaka. Alright. And some words beginning with the letter kaka. Cupboard. Cupboard means news. Cupboard. Kid means a game. Kid. Kira. Kira is a cucumber. Kaka kota. Kota means a donkey. It can also be used as an insult, but it's used to refer to the animal donkey. And cup. Cup means noise. cup. So when something's noisy and annoying you, cup. So the third letter in line number 2, which makes it letter number 8, is gaga. Gaga. Gaga is perhaps related to the letter G in English. How do you write it? So it starts up very similar to how you'd write haha, so that's haha there, but you close that gap. And then there's a vertical line coming down. And if you had joined that in the middle, that would make the letter sasa. But because you've not joined it, it's two separate shapes. This little line down with a loop that closes, and this vertical line that makes the letter gaga. Let's write it a couple more times. Gaga. Gaga. This is also relatively simple to write. Horizontal line at the top, and then maybe a third of the way across that line, start going down, and then round and across and close that loop. And then another third of the way across, maybe start doing the vertical line down, and they should be roughly the same height. Gaga. And we'll learn some words beginning with gaga. Sometimes you can also just write it by doing these shapes first and putting that line at the top afterwards. And if you're writing fast, sometimes you might want to just write all of the letters first without the line, then put the line at the top afterwards. Like this. But if you're just writing the letter, then it might be easier for you to do that line at the top first and then do these letters. It doesn't really matter. Gaga. Right. So a couple of words beginning with this letter. Galti. Galti is a mistake. Guru. Guru is like a teacher, like a spiritual leader, a guide. It's a bit more than just a school teacher, for example. More of a spiritual guide. Garden. Garden is neck. Neck rather than throat, it's the neck. And goal. Goal means round. Next letter is gaga. Gaga. Again, this is one of the trickier letters for someone to say if you're not familiar with Punjabi. Gaga. You give a bit more kind of extra emphasis to this letter. So if you compare it to the previous one, gaga, 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 gaga. It's the equivalent of the sound gh in Hindi, but you don't add that extra breath. You're just adding a bit of extra energy into it. Gaga. Gaga, gaga. Right, let's learn how to write this letter. Again, starting at the top left, and it's one of those letters that's open. So it's almost like writing kaka, but then we loop back down and round. And then have a tail at the end, and continue that line at the top. So maybe a bit like W, but with these extra tails and lines. फिर तो लिख दिया gaga. It doesn't matter too much how tall you make that middle bit. Usually it's a bit taller. But it's also fine to have it a bit on the short side. Gaga. And this loop here that I end up writing, that's unintentional. I have bad handwriting. But that's not necessarily how you write that letter. There, without that loop. Gaga. And let's learn some words beginning with gaga. Let me just write it a few times here so you can practice. Gaga. And some words. Ga is grass. Goda is a horse. Kart means fewer, less. Kart means very little, for example, in terms of quantity. And gabrana, it's a bit of a longer word. Gabrana means to be afraid, to be frightened. So this is the letter Kaga. So letter number 5 in line 2. Last letter in the second line is Nganga. This is also a bit tricky compared to the rest of the letters in this line. Nganga, first of all, it's not very commonly used at all. ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 2-4 ਥਾਵਾਂ 'ਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਲਿਖਣ ਵਕਤ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਘੱਟ ਹੀ ਵਰਤਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ. So we do see it in a couple of places in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, but in everyday Punjabi it's not very commonly used at all, and it's often replaceable with other letters. But here is how you write Nganga, and it's pronounced using the back of your tongue against the back of your mouth, the top of your mouth. Nganga. So start the top right, go down for a bit, start looping around like a circle, but then you make a smaller loop and let the tail hang off the edge. Horizontal line, start the top left, go down for a bit and then start going across, making a circle or a semicircle, and then you loop across and down. Do char wari hor. Nganga. Practice saying the letter as well. Nganga. It's like in English you'd probably represent it with an NG sound. Ng. Like sing. Ng. Nganga. Nganga. And it's almost the opposite of some, or a mirror image of some of the letters that we will learn later on. Nganga. Looks a bit like the letter 5 actually, like number 5, but with a tail and with a longer line at the top. Alright, couple of words. So we usually say Nganga Khali, and Khali means empty. There's no common words which begin with this letter, but it can be used in the middle or the end of some words. Although usually it's replaceable. For example, Kangana, we could replace Nganga with a Gaga, and with the tippi making an ng sound and the Gaga making the g sound. Kangana might work without this letter at all, but this is one of the words where we can use Nganga. So Kangana means it's a type of bangle or a type of jewellery. So Kangana is a bangle. Hing is a type of spice. Hing. And Langana is, it can be also pronounced as Langarana, which is to limp. So you can spell it differently. Langarana, but here we're saying Langana. Langana. And in Punjabi there are some words that you can spell a few different ways, and these are some of them.